I am, I am, I work for MIT admissions. I've been there for over 3 years. I am an alum of MIT. I graduated in 1985. I majored in electrical engineering. And my daughter just graduated from MIT May of this year. So I feel like I have some further connection with MIT, and I'm also a first year advisor. So once we'll discuss that a little bit more. Once the students come into MIT, I also am the advisor to some of them. So today, if you've never been to MIT, this is actually a picture taken from probably the most famous location of MIT. It's the Killian Court, that's the grass area. It's in front of a dome. That's where our graduation takes place. That's where we also welcome the students when they first come. And across the river, that river is called the Charles River. And across the river is the city of Boston. So we're located in the state of Massachusetts. The city MIT is in is actually called Cambridge. And it's literally right across the river from Boston. And the size is roughly 163 acres, which you may have to do some conversion. It's not a very big campus, very easily walkable. So these are some of the topics that I want to go through today. And the focus is really to try to cover what an undergraduate student would face or would go through at MIT. And I will end with some things about the application and financial aid if you're interested in applying to MIT. So this is was a video taken by MIT on September 29th, not too long ago. So again, you see this is a bigger view of Charles River looking at Boston, and the street on the left side is really, the whole entire street is part of the MIT campus. MIT has been around for 160 years, but what I'm going to show you next is, even though we've been around 160 years, we continue to build new facilities for the benefit of the students. So for example, this is our newest dormitory that opened in September 2021. So this became our 11th dormitory. And at MIT, all first-year students live in a dorm. And if you never leave the dorm, we guarantee you 4 years of dorm. And we'll go into a little bit later. Each of our 11 dorms are very different, and they each have their culture. This is what we will be changing to our student center, which is perhaps the most active part of student activity. It has some eateries, and so this will probably take place next year. So what I want to show you is that even though we've been around, we continue to make improvements and changes, so that the students can have better facilities or better experience on campus. So this is a building that just opened in 2018. It cost, I think, over $1 billion. It's the Nano building, where some of the most precise and high-tech equipment exists in this building to perform many detailed semiconductor-related or materials-related experiments on campus. This is another building this is the MIT Museum that actually just opened on October 2nd. So we changed locations, and it is the bottom 3 floors of this building is the museum, and the top part is actually office building for companies like Apple and other technology companies, and it's right on campus. This is actually these 2 buildings. Actually, the museum was constructed during the COVID, so during the last 2 years. These 2 high-rises also were constructed during the last 2 years. This one here, the darker one, is a graduate dorm. It is now the tallest building on campus. And this other one is going to be an office building. And back here used to be a parking lot, but all the parking has been sent to underground so that there will be a better environment for the students. And this whole location is quite close to our business school, the Sloan School. Even though you may know of MIT as very much an engineering or science-focused school, but we have very many talented musicians and artists. In fact, we are building a new music facility. The 3 cube buildings are being constructed right now behind this structure, which is our auditorium. The Q buildings will host performance centers, rehearsal rooms, for theater, for dance, for musicians. And so MIT, and we'll see later that MIT students actually do and participate in many things besides, just going to classes. And this is perhaps one of our newest building. It's not finished yet, but it will look like this when it's finished. This is called the Schwartzman College of Computing. So this is one of our latest initiatives to really focus on all things related to computer science. As you can imagine, computer science is such a big part of the world right now, and it's so pervasive. This September of 2022, MIT just created a new undergraduate major called Artificial Intelligence and Decision Making. So as I said, MIT has been around for 160 years. Our mission is to make a better world. Our mission has not really changed for 160 years, but the world does change. And when the world changes, we change. So a good example is this building, as well as the new major for artificial intelligence, because it's such a big part of the world. We want to be, a big player in this new field. And we think there are, many important ways of teaching it and how to be involved. So we don't just focus on technology. We also focus on fairness, and the ethics of computing. So it's not just learning algorithms and technology. And as I said before, we're not just a science and technology school. This building is under renovation now, and it will become the future architecture and design headquarters for MIT. And MIT, if you don't know it, has a very famous and extensive school of architecture. We'll touch upon that as well. So that was just a quick snapshot of, I only showed you what's changing on campus. And many of those things are actually being built right now on campus. Again, for various reasons to help, our students and faculty and staff have a, better experience in how to, conduct their research and activities better. In terms of academics, MIT has these 5 schools. I mentioned the School of Architecture. Most people probably know about our School of Engineering, but we also have a School of Humanities, which covers, for example, economics and political science, among others. And of course, we have a very well-known Sloan School of Management, which has an MBA program, doctoral program, and other degrees. And then we also have a School of Science, which covers physics, biology, chemistry, mathematics. And then lastly, we have this Schwartzman College of Computing, which is going to focus on everything related to computing. And that was that building that I showed you. If you want to, the other thing I want to say is almost everything about MIT that I'm telling you is public information. It's on our website. So, and all those pictures I found from the website. I did not have to draw any of it or take a picture of it myself. So for example, if you want to know what majors exist at MIT, that is the link. And if you ever are not sure where to go, one of the easiest ways to find out any information about MIT is to just use Google, for example, or a search engine, and just type, for example, MIT majors, and you'll probably see this site and other sites as well, where you could see the list of majors. Not only can you see the list of majors, the second website that I include here, we actually tell the world how many of our students are currently majoring in every one of those majors. At MIT, the first year students do not have a major. So in this website, you could see the second, third, and fourth year students on exactly how many of each of those students have chosen which of these majors to major. So again, it's just to show how transparent we are. We don't need to hide anything. We just want the world and you to know as much about MIT as possible so you can make a good decision on whether you think there's a good fit between MIT and yourself. Earlier, I mentioned how our mission is to make a better world, and our mission hasn't changed, but the world changes. So this is an example of how we react to the world changing. I mentioned we have a brand new major started in September 2022. It's the artificial intelligence major. But just a few years before, we've been introducing many of these new majors. As you can see, computer science is clearly a key component to the new majors, because that's where the world is going. So many of our students are majoring in computer science and molecular biology. So that's a bioinformatics, very computational focused biology. So you do not need to double major. You could just major in this one major, but it's designed specifically to cover multiple things in one major. We also have this one, which is course 6-9, computation and cognition. So that's neuroscience with computers. For those who like economics and statistics and data, they could choose course 6-14. And if you are into the planning side, urban planning, city planning, architecture, we also have another major called 11-6 that's relatively new. And we have so many students interested in biology and chemistry, we created a major that combines both. So these are just yet examples of how we try to change with the world. I focused briefly on the academics, but this is where MIT might be different from other colleges. At MIT, I would argue students learn more by doing things rather than by just listening and going to class. For example, undergraduates can participate in something we call a UROP, Undergraduate Research Opportunities Program, and that's the link. Every student at MIT, undergraduate student, can participate in UROP. You do not have to wait until your third year or fourth year. You could participate as early as you land at MIT in the first year. For example, my daughter had 3 UROPs in her first year. Over 90% of our undergraduate, by the time they graduate from MIT, would have done at least 1 UROP. In fact, the average is 3 to 4 UROPs by the time they graduate. These are just some of the examples that students work on. It could be robotics, it could be science, it could be aerodynamics engineering, but it also could be economics, business, political science, architecture. There are projects for students in every discipline. In fact, one of my advisees from last year, she's a computer science major, or she wants to be a computer science major, but her UROP was actually for the architecture department, because she was designing some machine learning algorithms to help the architecture department figure out how old certain building materials are. So that is undergraduate research. And that also is another very important characteristic of MIT. At MIT, we teach you the basics, whether it's computer science, physics, math, but then we let the student and faculty apply the basics to whichever area they think is important to them. So for example, we have a computer science lab. The professor almost only publishes data or projects related to cancer research. You would not normally think that a computer science lab would focus so much on cancer research. Well, part of the reason is because that professor got cancer herself. So she did a lot of research on cancer and realized that many of the papers published about cancer research did not involve any computer science department. And she did not think that's a good use of computer scientists. So she basically refocused her lab to just help cancer research. So that's just one example. Another way that our students really learn, again, apply what they learn from classes, is through activities. Here, I want to focus on some different activities that maybe MIT has and other colleges do not have. So for example, this top left part, these are glass pumpkins. In the United States, we have a holiday which is coming up on October 31st called Halloween, where people, pumpkins is a big part of the Halloween. But at MIT, instead of selling regular pumpkins that you eat or display, we sell glass pumpkins made by students and instructors. And in fact, we just did it. We sold over 1,000 glass pumpkins in one day on September 24th, which will fund that lab so that they can teach the students on how to make blow glass. As you can see, we have multiple car teams, solar car, electric car, diesel car teams. We have, this is another contest with Elon Musk, the CEO of Tesla, where a team had to design a transportation pod in a boring tunnel contest. We also have, I want to draw attention to here in the bottom right, this is a snapshot of a competition which you can find on YouTube. If you Google MIT battle code, one word, you'll see many videos related to that. Battle code is the Super Bowl of computer science competition. It happens every January, and it's not limited to MIT students. MIT just organizes it. We allow students from all over the world to participate, all college students, and even high school students. So if you are interested in competing, feel free to join in January, and you can learn the rules and just follow along. It is a competition that focuses on using artificial intelligence algorithms to solve the problem that they design for that particular year. So as you can imagine, these are all examples of activities where, as you can see, most of the time, you're doing it with a group of people. MIT is very collaborative. We almost always work in team, because if you want to make a better world and solve very difficult problems in the world, you need to probably work in a team. It's too hard to do by yourself. So almost everything we do involves teams. And then I included a couple of things. These are a little bit old, but MIT is quite famous for hacks. These are pranks, jokes but they're very technically, or they're very sophisticated to produce. And you will have to learn a lot to actually carry it out. So for example, this one here, the colorful picture, that's actually the windows of one of our buildings, the green building on campus. It looks like a computer terminal. So some of our students said, yeah, we could make that actually be a computer terminal. And let's play, in fact, a video game called Tetris. So if you Google MIT Tetris, you probably see videos of this actually working, where it will just be like the video game where the color blocks will be falling down from the top of the building to the bottom, and some student who's playing it is actually controlling and twisting the block. So these are just examples of things that are probably not as popular at other places, but very popular with MIT students. And these are just other pictures of activities. As you can see, there's a lot of dancing groups, singing groups, cultural groups. And one thing you'll notice is groups. MIT is very much of a team-oriented place. And we have students who are interested in so many different things. It is very likely you will be able to find a group of students who share many of the similar interests as you. And these are yet additional activities. We have hackathons, we have the traditional orchestras. This one here on the bottom left, I want to draw attention to you. So this is a wooden roller coaster. So it's a ride. You can't see it here, but a person can actually ride this thing. It actually starts from this side and it ends on this higher part. Actually, it doesn't end because you will fall backwards again. So this is a great example. Our students build this to welcome the new incoming students every orientation. And this was built in early September this year and was taken down, in 2 weeks. But can you imagine how long it takes a group of students to work together to do this? And not only, this is not a sculpture, it's an actual ride. So it has to work. And the city of Cambridge actually sends an inspector to our campus to make sure this ride is safe, because we will have students and other people ride it. And this is a great example. Earlier on, I was saying our students learn outside the classroom. Well, if you think you understand physics or mechanical engineering or math, you need to apply all of that to build this ride so that it works. So that's why I show you these things. And last but not least, many of our students are athletes. And if you're not an athlete, that's perfectly fine. We have many intramural, which is students can just participate in team with each other. And we also have physical education requirements. So in order for you to graduate from MIT, you do need to take physical education classes. And we have many classes, from swimming, the traditional type, but we also have some very unusual physical education classes. The most popular one at MIT is the pirate certificate. MIT students like to be pirates. A pirate, can imagine, what does a pirate need to be good at? Well, fencing, that's one of them. Pirates are very good with, sword fighting. So you need to take fencing. You need to be able to sail. You could sail right on that Charles River because pirates, conduct boats. And we also have archery. I'm less certain why archery is for pirates, but that's one of them. And the last one is either pistol or rifle. So if a student takes that combination of physical education classes, they will actually earn what's called a pirate certificate. You will get to wear costume like a pirate. They will take a picture of you and you will get a certificate. So this is another way our students learn. And just you can see here, in the United States, there's different levels of athletic teams. We are at Division III, except for crew, which is the rowing, that we're Division I. We have more Division III varsity team than any other college, than any other Division III college in the United States. We have 33 teams. And at MIT, Monday through Friday, between 5 p.m. and 7 p.m., we have no classes, no labs, because that's when the athletes usually practice. So that shows you how many athletes we have on campus that we will block out that time for them. Okay, I showed you a little picture first on of the dorm. That was the latest dorm, opened in September 2021. At MIT, this is a website that you can see videos made by our students. Each of our students are trying to convince the new incoming students why their dorm is so good. The first year you have to live in the dorm, but then after the first year, many male students move to fraternities, which tend to have their own house. Some of them, the houses are big enough so that all of the fraternity members can move in there, and sometimes it's not as big. So you could actually probably stay in a dorm, but still belong to a fraternity. That's similar for sororities as well. So some of our female students will also leave the dorm system and move to sorority. In fact, my daughter moved to a sorority. So the first year she lived in the dorm, and then the last 3 years she lived in a sorority. And she actually became the president of a sorority when she didn't even think she was going to join a sorority. We also have some called independent living groups, which is a group of students who have some shared interests. They have a house and they live together and they decide, cook together. We don't have that many students who will really just move off campus into apartments. They tend to still live in one of these living groups. And out of our 11 dorms, 6 of them have a cafeteria, 5 of them do not. And if you're in a dorm that does not have a cafeteria, you can still join a meal plan and not cook for yourself, but you can also cook for yourself or have different arrangements. And the key thing I want to talk about dorms is that at MIT, unlike many other colleges, you, the student, you pick where you want to live. We do not assign you a dorm. And the main reason is because our 11 dorms are all very different. The students in there have different interests, different culture. So for example, we have some dorms, more athletes tend to live there. We have other dorms where our makers, our builders, the people who make things like to be there. We have another dorm where most of the academic competitors tend to be there. And we have other dorms where people who love music, orchestra, or singing, they're there. So each dorm has a very distinct culture. And that's why we ask the student who knows themselves better to figure out which dorm best fits them. Okay, so now I'm going to talk a little bit about what happens when you get on campus. So we are, and this again could be different for MIT versus other colleges. We care a lot about the first year student. And in fact, we have an office called Office of the First Year. That entire office exists to help the first year student. Everything from academics, scheduling, dorms, living, mental health, healthcare. It's like having a parent on campus for the student. The other things we do is we want the students to get used to MIT when you join, because our first year students come from all over the world. Your background could be different. So how do we help the student? We change the grading system so that it's less stress. The first semester, you're graded on pass, no record. So the best you can do is you pass the class. The worst you can do is you never took it. It never, if you fail that class, it never shows up on your transcript. Nobody else except for you, the student, and your first year advisor know what grade you got. Nobody else knows. And even in the second semester, the grading is still A, B, C, no record. So you can get a grade of A, B, or C if that's what you receive for the course. But if you get below a C, again, there's no record. So that is designed to, reduce the academic stress for the first year student. We also limit you to the number of classes you can take. The first semester, you can only take 4.5 classes, no exceptions. And the second semester, you can only take at most 5 classes, no exceptions. So again, we want you to get used to MIT and use that time to explore all those other activities, research, and opportunities that you probably did not have when you were in high school. And when you apply to MIT, you do not come in, you just apply to one single school, MIT. We don't have a separate application for engineering or a different one for business. We only have one application. And however, every undergraduate student, by the time you graduate from MIT, you must all take what's called the General Institute requirements. And that right now consists of 2 semesters of calculus, 2 semesters of physics, 1 semester of chemistry, 1 biology, and 8 humanities, arts, and social science classes. So that's the requirement for every undergraduate. Doesn't matter what major you choose. And the last thing I would say is MIT knows we have students with very different interests. For example, our dorms are very different because we know our students are different. Likewise, our advising is different. We know you have different backgrounds, different interests. So even for the first year advisor, we have about 5 or 6 different ways at least of advising depending on your interest. And so it's pretty flexible. So if you like certain things, there's a specialized advising group for you. And if you don't like anything, we also have traditional advising as well. Okay, so that was a pretty quick overview of some of the things that our students go through as an undergrad. And now I'm going to focus more about the sort of application to MIT if you're interested in attending MIT. So the first thing I actually want to tell you is about the cost of going to MIT or the financial aid. So there's 3 things you just need to remember. The first thing is that we are need blind. When we select the students to come to MIT, we do not know or care about how rich or poor you are. So if you're very rich and you can pay full tuition, that doesn't help you. If you're very poor, you cannot pay any tuition, that does not hurt you. We simply want to look at the student to say, do we want to admit the student? Once we admit you, Then we look at the financial situation. So that's what we mean by need blind. The second thing is when we give you, the family, financial aid, the award, it's strictly based on need. So right now, the total cost of MIT education is about $79,000. It's on our website. That's tuition plus room, where you live and eat and transportation. But so that's the total need. That's the total estimated cost. When you apply for financial aid, we will work with you to figure out how much you need. If you need $60,000 per year, that's your need. If you need $5,000, that's your need. So each family is different. And when we give you financial aid, every dollar we give you is based on that need. So you're not earning the financial aid based on your GPA, your academics, or your athlete, or your musician. Everything we give you is based on your the economic need from your family. And lastly, whatever it is that you need, we give you 100% of it. So if in my example, if you need $10,000, you get $10,000. If you, in another family, you need $50,000, you get $50,000. And in some cases, if you need, all $79,000, you get all $79,000. So we give you the full need. So it's need blind, need-based, and full need. There are only 7 US colleges that follow this policy that I just said for every applicant. We follow this policy for all international students, for all US domestic students, all transfer students, and even all undocumented students. So there are only 7 US colleges that follow this policy for all of those applicants. And as an example, and this you can find on our website, I want to highlight this middle part here. If your family makes less than 140,000 US dollars a year, and you have typical assets, you do not pay tuition. That's like $58,000 right there. So the reason I want to highlight this, and we have a website where you can easily estimate how much you think the cost will be. So even though you think it may be $79,000 total cost, but in reality, the cost for you, your family, may be much less than that. So please do use our financial aid website to get an estimate for how much the actual cost will be for your family. So I want to say this even before I go into the application, because I think it's so important. I don't want any family to think, oh, MIT is too expensive, I'm not even going to bother to apply. I want you to know that there's a lot of financial aid that we give to students. And so, and for your particular family, the cost might be very low. Okay, now I'm actually going to go into the application itself. And first, I'll say a few philosophies about MIT. At MIT, the way we look at applications is, one, we only want to ask things that we feel are important to select a student. If something is not important, we don't want to waste your time, so we will not ask you. And the second philosophy we have is we want to do things that's from the student's perspective, that benefits the student. And I'll show you examples. So first of all, in the United States, many colleges use what's called the common application or coalition application, where you use one platform and you can apply to many, many different colleges. We're not on that platform. So you actually have to go to our website and just log in and access our application. The main reason is if you use the common application or coalition application platform, you have to write a very long essay. We do not need a long essay from our applicants. So that's why we're not on that platform. We have 5 very short essays. And so that's my example. We only ask you to do things that we need. We don't want you to do, you're busy enough as is. We don't want you to do extra things that we don't need. And also, we have an early action time frame for applying, that's November 1st, and we have a regular action, which is about January 5th. In our early action, it's non-binding, so that means even if you were admitted early, you do not have to go to MIT. You could go to some other college, and you can wait all the way until early May to make your decision. And our early action is also non-restrictive. There are other colleges that they allow you to apply early, and it's also non-binding, but they only allow you to apply to that college and no other private college at the same time. We have no restrictions like that. So you can apply MIT early and any other college early that you want to, but we ask you to look at the restrictions from the other colleges, because some of those other colleges may not allow you to apply to MIT in addition to that college. But we have no restriction because we want to give the students as much flexibility as possible. Now, in terms of our application, it's pretty standard as many other college applications. The one big difference I want to highlight is the SAT or ACT test. We reinstated that requirement for this year. So for the MIT class of 2027, we are requiring the SAT or ACT. However, we do know if you are in a situation, and we do know, especially for some international students, the tests are being canceled. You cannot even take the test. When you have very difficult situations like that, please just write it on the application that why you cannot take the test, and you will not be penalized for it. But if you can't take the test, with no hardship, then we are requiring that. Another thing I want to highlight is we do have an interview, and that's where the MIT Educational Council, the volunteers who set up this Zoom meeting, that's where they come in. At MIT, interviews are only conducted by alumni, and you as a student do not need to do anything. If you are assigned to an alumni interviewer, we call them educational counselors, they will contact you. So all we ask you is to check your email, especially if you have a spam email, just in case email goes there. And that I would strongly encourage you to take the interview, because that's an opportunity to learn more about MIT, and also an opportunity for the educational counselor to know more about you for stuff that's not in the other parts of the application. And another thing I want to highlight here, we have something called optional submissions. It's optional. You do not have to do it, but we know there are some students who are very interested in different things, whether it could be research or programming, or they build something, or art, architecture, music, dance, performance. It's been a part of their life. They're very proud of it. If you have something like that and you want to submit it to us, you can use this optimal submission method and submit it to us. And we will review that, and we get a lot of information when you submit something like that to us. But otherwise, our application is pretty similar to everything else. We require 2 recommendations from your teachers. We prefer one in the science and math and engineering type class, and one in the humanities type class. But if you can but we won't require you from one each. We just strongly recommend that you'd have one from each. And here are some other places that I strongly recommend if you're interested in MIT to look. The first thing is an easy thing to do is go to this website, news.mit.edu, and you can subscribe to it. This is MIT's news website. You could scroll through there as is, or you could subscribe. If you subscribe, basically every day you will get an email in the morning that will tell you about something that happened at MIT. And it could be research, it could be a profile of a professor, of an undergraduate student, graduate student. It could be some news article that someone published about MIT. And in a very short time, even like a month, just by looking at the headlines that you see every day, you will get a pretty good idea of how diverse, what are all the different things that MIT people are doing, and to really try to commit to our mission of to make a better world. And it always fascinates me. I don't understand most of the headlines because it's so detailed. You know, they cover everything from fusion to batteries to, you know, workforce. It really covers so many different things. And for the high school students and parents, this list of website, I think, is really very helpful. Each one was designed to answer the specific question. So because we get asked these questions so often, and we really want to tell you everything about MIT, so you can make, you know, your best decision about whether you want to come to MIT or not. And so, you know, for example, the summer one, it has a long list of summer programs. Again, they're all just optional, but these are programs that some of our students have participated in, and they are very good programs. Very few of them are actually run by MIT. So the list includes many summer programs run by other organizations, but they're very good, and that's why we list them. So I highly recommend that you look there. And we also actually tell you how we select students. So we really try to be as transparent as possible. And that really, that's the end of my presentation. And I really want to thank you for taking this time and listening to me. And I'm happy to answer, you know, as many questions as you have.
Thank you, Yi. And thank you everyone for joining at the early hour. If you kindly put your questions into the chat box, then we can answer that. I know we had scheduled this for a 30-minute call, and I'm glad that we're able to present a lot of information. I hope that was helpful for you. I've also sent a link, and just to introduce myself, I'm S. Barmani. I am the MIT Educational Council Japan chair. And I have a few of the fellow volunteers joining here with me. I've also added a survey link on the chat box, if you could kindly respond to the survey so that you can be connected. It also provides you an opportunity to ask questions, and we can get back to you on that. And one of the questions that I received from Joe Kojima is a very simple, but I think important question, which is what kind of student is fit for MIT? I think it's focusing on the cultural fit aspect.
Sure. And I would say, so one of the links that we say is what we look for, that I mentioned before. So, and here are some, there's no one single like defining thing, but there's several things that I think will fit at MIT. So not in any particular order. So initiative. MIT has so many opportunities. So the student who does really well here and they're happy here take a lot of initiative. They look for all those research opportunities, all these activities. They're risk takers. They're willing to try out something that maybe they don't know, but they're interested in it. And they are not afraid of failing and then learning from the failure and, you know, continue. Collaborative is another huge one. MIT students help each other so much. There's very little competition on campus for MIT because we are trying to solve harder problems. We're not here to beat each other up. We're here to help each other to solve those bigger problems. So those are some of the, you know, immediate characteristics of students who succeed here. And in that page, I think there's a few more, like I think curiosity is another one. So that's how I would answer that one. Okay. And over the years, I would say I have seen, I do see the MIT student is a little different. If anything, if I over stereotype or generalize, they tend to be kinder. You know, they're the type of person who, if they're walking in front of you, just they'll open the door for you. That's like the almost typical type of MIT student that we see. They are less caring about themselves. They're more humble. Even though they have achieved great things, they don't go about bragging about it. You have to talk to them for a while, and then you find out, oh my God, you did that? Now I know, versus other people who may have done those things will tell you immediately, hey, I'm the winner of such and such. Not MIT. I've had many experiences where students did so many amazing things, you wouldn't know it until you talk to them for a while, and then you find out that's what they have done. And even in a group setting with others, they do not. I'm an advisor. I told you, in my group of advisees, I have students from different backgrounds. Some with very academic background, and some with less. But when they're in a setting together, you cannot tell. In fact, I still remember this, and I want to share with you. The student I have who is the most academically prepared by far, I made a comment to him. I said, well, you are, a type of student that makes MIT special. And he immediately said, every student at MIT makes MIT special. So, I wasn't expecting that from a student who is incredibly accomplished, but here he did not see himself as anything different. And he's absolutely right. Every student at MIT has some really distinct interest and contribution that they make to the community, and that's why they're here. So, so that I would say is also I would say typical culture of MIT students.
Thank you, Yi. I just wanted to say that we're recording this video so that people are able to review it later as well. And if you reply to the survey, we'll be able to provide that link later on, as well as MIT Club of Japan has graciously accepted to host the link on the website. So we'll be able to send that link around as well. One question which I think is quite interesting, I think this is from Shin Kori at ASIJ. He was surprised to learn that from the admission site that 10% of the MIT graduates go to medical profession.
Well, I would say, I think it's roughly 10% of our students are pre-med. So that's a great example. If you want to know how many actually go to med school, I don't know the exact number, but I would probably Google it. Like if anyone asked me, I would probably Google MIT, med school admission, because we have a pre-health team who works with all of our pre-med students. And 10% is what I remember they're telling me. And also, I know we have a website that tells you how many people are, I think, a mid-rate to medical school for just regular medical school and MD, PhD programs. And I remember the person who heads that pre-health team saying, I think last year we had a record admit rate for MD, PhD program, and I think a record number of students admitted to MD, PhD program. But on campus, I wouldn't say, you would see that many students are pre-med. It's not I don't think it's a big enough group to feel a big presence.
Thank you. We have a question from Yoel Feldman asking, what sort of support does MIT provide to neurodivergent students, such as those with dyslexia, ADHD, OCD, or other conditions?
So that's a good question. We do have students with those situations, and we have, so a couple of things. Earlier on, I mentioned the Office of First Year, as well as, for students with these different situations, there's support for all the years here. We have a student, I forget the acronym because we just call it S cubed because it's SSS. That's a good starting point to help the student with any, needs, whether it's health or mental health or any other special needs. And we have a whole department of people who are more trained and professional in different type of disabilities or challenges. So that's or conditions. So there's different groups depending on what the need is.
Thank you. We have another question from Soichi Yamaguchi asking around how do you look at the applicant versus the school that they are from? Do you select based off of school? Do you look at the school they're from, or is it just primarily the applicant's submission that you look for?
Sure, great question. So we look at everything that you submit. So school is obviously one of the important things that's related to a student. However, we have no quotas. We don't say, we must admit, this many students from a school, or we don't have anything like that. So we really do look at the student. And if we feel the student is deserving to come, we will admit the student. I like to use my daughter as an example. She goes to a regular public school in New Jersey, or she went to a regular public school in New Jersey. For many years, that school will have almost no one admitted to MIT, or at best one. But in her year, there were 4 admitted, and only 7 people applied, and they got 4 in that year. And I know other examples where very well-known, STEM schools where we had 0 admits from those schools for multiple years. So it really does depend on the student, and that is primarily our focus.
Thank you, Yi. That's most of the questions that we have right now. As we have a lot of people who potentially applied this year, as well as who will be applying this year and in the future, I just want to say a little bit about the Educational Council. We're a group of alumni volunteers that, just use our time, and we're just really happy to interact with prospective applicants. What we do is once MIT receives the application from the undergraduates, they will contact the regional chair of the Educational Council to ask for assigning volunteers to interact with and to interview with the students. The main thing I wanted to let you know is that we alumni interviewers don't have any background on your application process. It's basically a fresh discussion. So please come as yourself. We just want to know about you. And ideally, what's not on the application process, or what does not come out clearly on the application process. And the interview is something that we, as you mentioned, we email you directly, and so we initiate that process, and it's usually a 60 to 90-minute call. We as interviewers provide at least 6-paragraph report to the admissions officer as a result of the interview, and that sometimes takes an hour for us to write up because we know how important it is for your future. And the reason why I wanted to mention is because I think that's part of the culture that we have. We are paying it forward, and we really look forward to as many of you applying, and I really do believe that everyone will get the right fit for them, and I congratulate all of you for looking into advanced education, and I hope to interact with you all, regardless of whether it's as future alumni or not. I'm going to hand it back to you.
Sure. And I really want to echo that. We in the admissions office could not really do as good a job in selecting students without the help of these dedicated volunteer interviewers, because they know the local community way better than we do. And they're spending the time in really kind of being our eyes and ears in speaking with you. So it is a great opportunity for you to share additional information that you didn't have the space or time to put in your application. And that would be, greatly helpful to us. Okay.
Well, I think we're reaching the end of the hour. So I wanted to thank all of you, and most of all, for Yitso, the director of MIT Educational Council. Thank you for making the
Oh,
time,
my pleasure.
and hope everyone has a great rest of the day.
Yes. Thank you for stopping by.
Great
Thank
interview.
you.
Look forward to meet you as an interview this year. Thank you very much. Have a great future.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you. Thanks, Ichida-san.